Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our April 12th meeting of the Board of Education. Would you please stand us and join in the reciting of our Pledge of Allegiance that will be led by Ben tonight.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, Ben. Board members, you've had a chance to examine our agenda. I'm unaware of any changes or alterations. Therefore, may we have a motion to accept the agenda?
So moved.
Second? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
The Board of Education invites the public to comment on matters regarding the school district. The public comment section of the meeting is a time for the Board of Education to listen. As a courtesy, we ask that you limit your comments to no more than 3 minutes. Comments naming specific personnel should be addressed privately or in writing to the board in order to protect individuals' rights. And matters that would infringe upon student privacy will not be addressed in the public forum. With that being said, is there anyone present who would like to address the board tonight? Seeing none, we'll move on to our student liaisons. Welcome. Ben, are you going to be a gentleman and let the ladies go first?
Yes.
All right, so I'll start out. I hope everyone had a really nice break, even though we're still getting snow in April, which isn't uncommon in Rochester. The softball team actually went to Florida over spring break, and they won 2 out of the 5 games. And they actually beat Spencerport last night with a 23-5, so that was pretty impressive. That's never happened for them before. Our baseball team also beat Spencerport, and our boys varsity lacrosse had a tough loss against Fairport a few nights ago, but it was a really good game to watch, even though it was freezing outside. Actually, the varsity and the JV lacrosse team for girls are undefeated for their season so far, which is really good. And the boys varsity tennis had their first game on Tuesday against Brighton. Actually, one of our classmates, Greg Monrad, who plays singles 1 this year, was the Scholar Athlete of the Week, so that was really nice. He was on the news a couple nights ago. We had an amazing One Warrior Week before break, and it started with an assembly with a guest speaker talking about life stories and telling students to become best versions of themselves.
And then we actually had another assembly that week, at the end of the week, where we had some Schrader alumni come in and speak to us about how much, how important their high school career was to them and what Schrader means to them. And then our Link crew members went to the elementary schools and made charm bracelets with the 5th graders. The third quarter is coming to a wrap nicely, and everyone's starting to prepare for their AP test. Our Sparks team placed 3rd at the regional competition in Cleveland last week. The Language Honor Society induction ceremony welcomed many new students from all 3 languages. Members of FBLA, Future Business Leaders of America, are away for 3 days in Binghamton for a state leadership conference where they are competing and doing workshops. International Club had a cheese tasting party, which was a lot of fun. Students brought in cheese famous around the world, and then we talked about the cheese, and then we ate it. We had our Music in Our Schools Month concert, and 5th graders came to watch our symphony orchestra play. The personal law class went on a field trip to Rochester Courthouse, where they heard lots of different cases. And this weekend, our show choir will actually be heading to New York City, which is going to be a lot of fun for them. And then that's pretty much it for Schrader.
Thank you.
So, as they mentioned, and as everyone is very aware, winter's still clinging on, and at this point, I'm hoping that sometime soon we'll just go right into summer and we can leave all this behind us. But, I mean, it's been snowing on and off the past few weeks, so I don't know if the winter's ever going to end. And the people impacted most is really the spring athletes and our coaches. Lacrosse games have been playing with snow on the turf, softball and baseball teams are playing in sub-40-degree weather, and other sports like golf and tennis have had really unusual starts to their seasons. A couple days ago, the golf team was practicing their short game in the library with a little putting in between the books. So you always see the coaches' creativity and intuition with things like that. And also, our unified basketball team will be hosting the Unified Elementary Basketball Tournament, where more than 6 elementary schools from throughout the county will be participating. And this is a really cool event where members from the Unified Sports Organization and from the varsity team at Thomas will be providing information about the program and really allowing an already growing program to blossom even more into something throughout Monroe County. And a very big day coming up for all lovers of art in the Webster community is Community Arts Day, which is this Saturday, the 14th. It'll be hosted at Schrader from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And student and community art will be showcased along with musical performances, community groups, and as well as arts and crafts vendors. And as it is every year, April is sort of the calm before the storm with May. For May, AP courses are culminating in the form of their AP tests. After that, we go right into junior prom and senior ball. And class advisors have been working very hard for both events. I'm very excited for senior ball, and I know the juniors are going to have a great time at prom. And after that, we're in June with the regents, and then after that is graduation. And saying that as a senior, it's something crazy. It felt like a couple days ago, I was looking at Mr. Gamina's tweet, 100 days until graduation, and then that was already 27 days ago, so time's moving fast, and I know after APs, it's gonna move even faster, so from everyone, all the seniors at Thomas and Schrader, I know we're just trying to cherish all the last days in this amazing school district. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
When is the, do you have any idea when that unified basketball event is for elementary?
I'm not sure when it specifically is, but I think it's sometime in May, in early May. But yeah, yep.
Would it be on the schedule that they, it should be on that schedule.
Thanks, guys.
Well, the last time we heard a budget report, we did not have a finalized state budget. Now that we do have a state budget, there are some changes being made to our proposed school budget. So Brian, could you please review our revenue and expenses and any changes that are being made to the proposed budget?
Happy to. So we're just going to take a look at where our budget finalized. Little update on where our state aid finished too last week. While everybody was warming themselves in the southern states, I was anxiously anticipating all the news out of Albany. And then just what our final budget numbers and any last minute questions moving forward. So 3 parts to a tax rate. I always like to review this. There's 3 different things that go into my projection. We look at what the assessed value of the community is, what the equalization rate, that's unique to schools because we cross town boundaries, that gets set by the state, and the tax levy is controlled by the school district or the municipality. So what are our 3 components? So our total tax levy for next year is $103,850,795. It's a 3% increase over last year. That is right at our tax cap. So we are tax cap compliant going into next year. So all refunds and rebates and all the state programs are intact for our residents. And so that's the first part into the formula I use to project. Equalization rates, don't know where those are going to be. Those get set in July, and the past couple of years we've had some changes, but I can't really predict that very well, so we just set those at what they are currently. So you can see we have 3 towns that are assessed at 100 and Webster at 86.5. And then the third part is assessment. I take a look at a 10-year average of what's happened in each of the 4 communities within Webster and apply that moving forward to try to give a best guess of where we're going to be for projected possible tax rates. So first column you see is 17-18. Those are what our rates were for this year and what they would be for 18-19. So about a 28 cents per thousand increase, or about 1.34% across the board, 1.28 if you're on Ontario or Walworth. Now, what does that mean for the cost of a house? So the Zillow estimate now for the average in Webster is up to $191,700 last time I checked. So what's that impact for a year? Anywhere between $52 and $54.62 per year. About a 1.34% increase. So that is our best guess right now as part of this budget adoption of where our tax rates would be. Like I said, as if history's going to prove anything. It will change when we go to adopt our tax warrant in August based on, the other factors, assessed value and equalization rates. Okay. And then this is something I shared with the Budget Advisory Committee, and they thought it was very pertinent and useful information and thought I should share it with a broader audience. These are the Monroe 1 BOCES school districts, all listed right here based on 2016 data that has been released to the state. So we know it's all uniform, it's all been audited, and it's all been turned over to the state. And this is what the state has available, was 2016 data. Where Webster is, we are the second lowest tax revenue per student on the Monroe 1 districts. We are just about, would need to increase our levy over $11 million just to get to the average of what the other Monroe 1 districts spend per student. So it's just an interesting take on where we are with our overall tax levy compared to the size of the district. So just wanted to share that with you guys this evening as well. So where did we end up with state aid? A lot of things trickled out slowly over the holiday of what the budget was finalized and finished, a lot of last minute things. Overall though, most importantly, and I'll highlight this number right here, foundation aid. Where did that end up finishing off? So last year we had just about an $800,000 increase in foundation aid. So I was expecting roughly the same going into this budget cycle. But as you can see, we only received a total of $545,253. Governor's original proposal was $415,000, so the legislature did not add too much more for us for foundation aid. We actually were at the minimum allowable foundation aid increase for the state based on all the tiers and formulas in this fun little book that we get sent over the holidays. So we are, when I plug us in, we are in the exact lowest bracket. So not a lot of help, which was disappointing because I think there was, with some of the proposals that were presented from the Senate and the Assembly going into the final negotiations, we were hopeful for a little bit more on the foundation aid side. So no changes on some of the expense-based aids. You will see, though, as a comparison, the BOCES is going up by $100,000 with a few more weeks to look at. Remember, that's an expense-based aid, a little bit better job of projecting what we're going to spend through June 30th, and also getting a look at what our reimbursement rate would be from the state with that formula now set. So I expected maybe we could get an extra $100,000 of state aid there. So all told, the highlighted is our final state budget number, just about $900,000 increase. So what does that do overall for our revenue numbers? You can see we no longer have a budget gap. Because of that increase in state aid. You also notice miscellaneous revenues. Because we are spending more with BOCES, I'm projecting our BOCES refund will be higher next year. So that's where it comes in miscellaneous revenues. That's why you see an increase there as well. So all told, our final revenue matches our final budget of $172,316,603. 2.59% increase. Just about $4.3 million. And I think we accomplished a lot for a 2.59% increase, because everything that was presented at the last workshop is still included in this budget number. So the additional teaching assistants, the additional school resource officer, and the additional program change, which actually is a significant savings to the district, and pulling those students back, are all included in this budget that was proposed at the last workshop. Okay. And then there's just a breakdown of our major categories for everybody with a 3-year look back of where we're at. You'll see where we're doing some significant savings in the BOCES line because of the new program that we're starting, but the trade-off for that would be some higher costs in our salaries. But overall, 2.59% from our major categories. Any questions or comments? Not a lot of changes from the last workshop, so.
Anything, Jan?
No.
Linda?
No,
You okay,
thank
Sue?
you.
I'm good, thank you.
Tammy?
No, thank you.
Well, then may we have a motion, please, to adopt for public vote the proposed 2018-2019 budget in the amount of $172,316,603, and further approve proposition number 1 for the purchase of school buses at the maximum estimated cost not to exceed $1,550,000. Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We're required by the state to report on a number of details involving our budget. It includes such items as the total amount of money to be levied, the total amount of students in the district, our fund balances, as well as the finances involving our reserves. So, Brian, do you want to make any comments on
Sure.
that?
So the budget notice that we adopt every year hasn't changed at all. That is straightforward. That is just our reporting requirement. We will put that into our annual budget flyer that goes out. No changes whatsoever with that. That is just updated for our data. The property tax report card, which I shared to you guys a little later, that had some significant changes compared to years previous. That just got released last Friday with the new formatting. And if you'll notice, it has a whole section on reserves that we now have to have. So all the reserve funds that we currently hold, what we call them, what the snapshot at the end of March is every year. So next year it's next March. And then a projection of where we think what our reserves are going to look like at the end of June and our reasoning purpose for that reserve. So that whole section is brand new this year. So we needed a couple extra days to get that. They released the format and then to get the guidance on exactly what are they looking for with each of those new lines. So you see that difference with the property tax report card.
Would we need to change some of the categories for our reserves?
No, we just, we're pretty basic with what we call our reserves. If the capital reserve is, you know, on the bank statement, it just says capital reserve. You know, we don't have anything creative.
If there are no further questions, may we have a motion, please, to approve the property tax report card?
So moved. Second?
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We're also required to report out information about our budget, breaking it down into the administrative, program, and capital components, as well as the levy amount. You do have it before you, and Brian, do you have any comments on that? It's straightforward.
That was straightforward. Yep, that's one that hasn't changed.
Questions from the board? Then may we have a motion, please, to approve? Thank you, Jan. Second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. All right, we do have a claim involving the Individuals with Disabilities Act before us. We do have a proposed agreement. May we have a motion, please, to approve the agreement and the necessary steps to implement that agreement?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Second, please.
Second?
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Carm, do you have a report at all today or not? Okay. Then we'll move into our policy reading. Sue, do you want to cover that?
Yeah, this is the second read of policy 5400. Really just semantics here. We did make one small change last time to make sure that we kept in the line about working with PTSA. I think we're going to have some more changes once some recommendations come down from the state, but right now these are the changes we're going to recommend, and like I said, it's just semantics. Making sure it's accurate.
No questions for Sue? Then
No, thank you.
then can we have a motion to accept
So moved.
policy 54?
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
In a second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we'll move into our school reports. Jan, anything to report?
I went to the last Clem North PTSA meeting. It was March 19th, and the next one, this month, will be Monday, April 23rd at 6:30. The current activities that are going on right now, this Friday is a bingo night in the cafeteria. And there's a lot of fun over there with the Earth Day poster contest that's going on. And of course, there were 2 roller skating parties this month so far. So I
Things are well. They have a new therapy dog named Rudy. And so anyway, I enjoyed going to those meetings. Very nice.
Plank South's meeting was last night, yes, last night. And they're, believe it or not, beginning to plan for next year, trying to figure out events that will happen so they can get them on the calendar. A couple events that are coming up, they are going to have a spring fling dance on the 27th at Schrader. They moved it over to Schrader because there's so many kids that come to the dance that they needed a bigger venue. They're also going to have an ice cream social, which is actually their biggest event of the year. That will be on May 8th. And Yoga Club and the Lego Club are continuing, and those are two of the biggest and most popular clubs there are, with waiting lists, as a matter of fact. So.
Thank you. Sue?
Yes, April 24th, there's a PTSA workshop, a planning workshop for next year. You know, they're like deciding their fundraisers and their activities, their literary, their authors that would come in, all that kind of things. So they're planning that. On the 27th, which is Friday, is Family Fun Night, and then on May 11th, Mr. Freeman is in on planning this Family Nerf Night.
Oh.
Yes.
Best.
So I'm hoping to get an invitation.
Is that
Aren't you planning it?
Not till next year.
Oh.
I'm doing a baseball game, an outing at the Red Wings game.
Oh, well, I thought you were there promoting the Nerf
They
Night.
had asked me to do that for next year.
Oh,
'cause
okay.
They're losing that year.
Okay, I misspoke. then.
That's why I was
Anyway.
surprised. Because
Yes. But are you going to Family Nerf
My
Night?
wife signed me up for something. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Are you going to Family Nerf Night?
Probably.
How fun.
Yeah, doesn't it sound like fun? Yeah,
Right.
it does sound like fun.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, that's what's going on at Schlegel.
Thank you, Sue.
Mm-hmm.
Tammy, anything to report?
I was still in San Antonio. I missed DeWitt's meeting this week, but they are now doing announcements in the morning, and it's extremely popular. It's going over very well. The kids are doing a great job. The staff is very excited about it. They have a skate night planned for April 27th, a plant sale coming up, and they're also looking for positions to plan for next year. So things are in good hands, and the next meeting is May 14th, so I look forward to being there.
Thank you. Mike, anything to report on State Road?
I do. It was a very lovely meeting, a very nice school. I just can't, I'm going to reiterate again that, you know, I've been at a couple schools now. I just can't believe the effort and the time and the money that the people of the PTSA moms and put in. It's just unbelievable. To some of them, it's a full-time job, and it's awesome. And thank you so much for that. We have a couple things here. Let me take a look here. We have a, let's see here how I wrote this up here. All right, we got a book fair going on from 4/24 to 4/26. If you buy one, you get one free. We have a Seabreeze, let's see, a carnival's going on, and that's going to be April 27th from 6 to 8 o'clock. I guess that's a real big deal for them. They really enjoy that. Carm, you're there, aren't you? Usually you dress up and go. You're dressed up and face painting and do that? Yeah.
They throw sponges in.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, you're the sponge guy. This year we're going to change it to pies.
Yeah.
I'm buying all the, hey Carm, I'm buying all the pies.
Is there paint on the sponges?
No, there's water and it's heavy. And last year I thought I broke my nose. This one was really, it was like a pitcher.
He was into it, huh?
I think they should use Nerf.
Yeah.
They have a Seabreeze trip coming up on June 8th. They have a moving update on June 19th. And I have a couple things right here. And the next meeting is going to be June 5th at 6:30. So great job over State Road.
Thank you, Mike.
Yep.
At Clem South, the big thing is that they have their Mathnasium Math STEM Night next Tuesday from 6:30 to 8 o'clock. We'll move on to our Monroe County. From the legislative point of view, the good news is that the expense-based aids are fully funded, and the proposed cap on BOCES building and transportation aids was rejected by the legislators. As Brian indicated, the increase from the proposed state budget to the enacted state budget did not give us what we were hoping for. Some of the things that was left out of the budget negotiations was the Child Victims Act, ethics reform, and school security. Now, speaking of school security, I gave you a draft copy of Monroe County School Boards Association position paper. And I'd like you to take a look at it because we do have some legislative appointments coming up in the month of May. And in order to get them ready, we're going to need you to take a look at these. And if you have any comments or questions or edits, they need to be done in the next 2 weeks. So you can take a look there. A couple of things from the legislative point of view related to SED and the Board of Regents. There appears to be an arts pathway to graduation being developed. And that pathway could be used for visual arts, music, and theater. So we're hoping that takes place. And also, I hope you saw in our onboard that the Board of Regents approved a change to the rule of the 180-day calendar. It's based more on contact hours, so we'll want to see how that goes out. Also, I gave you a copy of the videos that you can watch from the last couple of years. I'm going to point out a couple that I thought were absolutely worth watching. The January 11th, the brain trauma was very, very good. You may want to take a look at the Rochester International Academy. That was amazing to see what they did there. And interestingly, we were looking at start times back in 2016, so you may want to take a look at that video and refresh your memory. So that's for your for whatever you want to do with it. Okay, let's move on to information. Tammy?
Okay. The next meeting is on the 18th. It's communicating with stakeholders, so it was pushed back a week because of the break. And a meeting has been added on May 9th to talk about ESSA. So they felt that it was important enough to add an additional meeting to the calendar. And then also, we'll figure out a way to solicit topics to develop next year's calendar. I thought I've enjoyed this committee so much the past 2 years because all of the dialogue, everything that we're working on dovetails. And it just makes so much sense to have the county having the same conversations that individual districts are having. And I just think that makes everybody...
Can I convince you to be co-chair again next year?
Maybe. I really like it. Okay. But yeah, so we can think about topics like that to keep these conversations going.
Thank you.
That's it.
Labor Relations is next week, correct? All right. Our executive committee meeting is coming up on the 25th, which is next Wednesday. At that meeting, we'll be looking at the proposed MCSBA budget. There are no due increases, which is nice to hear. We'll also be hearing from the nomination committee. And Dave and I attended the spring law conference today. And we heard from Colleen Henrich, who's one of our lawyers, and Linda Vankowski. They talked about the legal and practical tips for conducting investigations, whether it be for your student or your staff, and there's all sorts of things that were very pertinent. And don't want to talk about them out here in public, but if you need information, you can. We heard from Harris Beach firm involving the ramifications of outside the classroom activities, particularly field trips. And they gave us a sample policy that we may want to check with our present policy, because policy really dictates how you sometimes react to situations that happen, to take a look at. And then finally, field trips.
Did you get that, Dave?
I did.
Oh, okay. Good, thank you.
Yeah, I have a copy if Dave forgets. And finally, Leslie Myers, who's the superintendent of Brockport, and Ann McGinnis, who's from Harris Beach, they talked on the legal and practical implications of supporting student freedom of speech, and they showed some examples. And around the room, there were differences of opinion on what is speech and what is not. So that was a very, very interesting law conference today, which kind of lends into, you got my report on the National School Board Conference, but Tammy also came, and I don't know if you have any comments on that.
I do. And I'll send to everybody as well, because if there's different workshops that anybody wants to see, you still have access and can download anything. But Terry Bradshaw opened the general session, and we're pretty sure that he just winged it, but he was very entertaining and very funny, and everyone enjoyed him. After that, really. After that, I went to Eye of the Storm, and it's about women in government and elections in 2018. Do we expect to see more women run? And they know already that it's the pipeline theory, that anyone thinking about it or talking about it should look for support, should get their petitions run. You're probably more qualified than you believe you are, and it's a good move to make. So that was great. Then I went to interest-based bargaining, and this district had conducted their negotiations over a 16-year period and hadn't had any issues, so it was interesting to learn about that. I went to education foundations, and the thing that was kind of cool about how they worked was that Education Foundation was kind of like seed money for any innovative ideas that weren't in the budget. And then if they worked, and if it was widely accepted, they could figure out how they wanted to incorporate it if that were the case. So there were good examples about retirees spending an hour a week with struggling students and just easy things to do. There was a liaison at every school in the district. They were a little bit smaller than we are, but a lot of good ideas there as well. And Sunday, Ann Compton was the general session speaker, and was completely incredible, and talked about in this digital age specifically how important facts are and how important media is and fake news, and she really did expound. She served under 8 presidents, so she was very, very eloquent. She was very excellent speaker. And then I went to 2 different facilities planning process sessions, and the first one really reminded me of Building the Future. So they had this enormous project, and that was very similar to all the work that we did back then, except now they had the benefit of the videos and the things that we've incorporated as well to use social media. But being transparent and offering different options and all things that we do in all of our planning. So firms were doing a great job. But it was a good conference. Definitely appreciated being there.
Thank you, Tammy. We don't have anything from audit to report. Policy, Sue, we just did the 54. Budget advisory, well, the budget was
our last meeting.
Yeah. And strategic planning, anything there, Sue?
We had a meeting on March 29th. It was a pretty short meeting. We got an update on the start times, and the plan is to make a recommendation to the board by the end of the summer. And the other thing of note, well, we talked about what they're going to present to us at our May board meeting. We're going to talk about personal finance, the class that's coming up, flip survey results, updated metrics, and the web pages. And the web pages they're working on really just making it so that it's very transparent, and so anybody can see what strategic planning is doing. Trying to make it user-friendly, finding a way to represent the metrics that doesn't, so it doesn't look like this. This is a little rough to look at, but they're looking at different ways to do that, and more user-friendly and something that people can glance at, because generally people don't spend a lot of time on the website. It's really quick, but it'll be little blurbs, but enough information so people can get an idea, and then with tons and tons of links, so if they want to research any deeper, they can. So all's going good. Well.
All right, we will move on to our consent agenda. Board members have had a chance to take a look at it. It includes the minutes of our meetings, our personnel actions, the recommendation on the Committee on Special Education, as well as the recommendations on the Committee on Preschool Education. There is a resolution appointing a number of, we'll call them clerks and election inspectors for our budget vote. and there's the appointment of our deputy treasurer and extra classroom auditor. With that being said, may we have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Please note that our April 26th meeting has been canceled, and we do have a special meeting next Tuesday on a BOCES budget, so hopefully you guys can make it. It's 8 o'clock in the morning.
As well as facilities.
And
planning,
facilities workshop.
Have we gotten the information on the BOCES budget?
We have not received that. Okay.
Thank you.
So with that being said, may we have a motion, please, to adjourn?
So moved.
Oh, second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Good night, everyone.
Good night.